Welcome back to Yehoshua's Daf Yomi Shiur, where the Daf continues until the revelation of Mashiach ben David. The complete revelation of Mashiach ben David may be soon and in our day. Today we'll be looking at Tractate Chullin, page 57, top of the page. Actually, it's in the middle of the story, so the story starts from the bottom, on the bottom of 56b. Last line, Hahu Roma'a. So on the bottom of 56b, Hahu Roma'a dechazilahu gavrin nenavam yagal ne'ara pikaya karase unepuk me'ayane asye levare v'shakate kame. And now we turn to 57a. Ba'achuzadeinayim Inagid v'itnachul lemayane v'chayate lekarase. Okay, that means the Gemara recounts an incident involving a certain Roman who saw a certain man fall from the roof to the ground, and his stomach ruptured and his intestines emerged. The Roman brought the man's son and slaughtered him before his father's eyes, deceptively, meaning he only pretended to kill the son. The father fainted and went limp. By this movement, his intestines entered his stomach, and the Roman sewed up his stomach, and he recovered. Very bizarre story. I don't understand why the Roman, okay. Alright, let's continue. Nishtabra ragleho Hahut sanadin kore the Mishnah states, if its legs are broken, the bird remains kosher. The Gemara relates that there was a certain basket of birds with broken legs that came before Rava. Rava inspected each bird at the convergence of sinews and the thigh, and when he found that all of its sinews were intact, he deemed it kosher. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav Shmutas Yag b'behem kshero Shmutas Yag b'behem treifo Shmutas Yag b'oif treifo Shmutas gaf b'oif treifo Chashinon shemoni k'vahayo U'Shmuel Amar tibodek V'chein Amar Yochanan tibodek. Rabbi Yehuda says that Rav says a dislocated foreleg in an animal is kosher. A dislocated femur in an animal renders it a treifa. A dislocated femur in a bird renders it a treifa. A dislocated wing in a bird renders it a treifa, because we must be concerned that perhaps the lung was perforated. The lung is located near the wing's attachment to the body, and part of the lung may have been torn out with the wing. And Shmuel says the lung should be inspected, and if no damage is found, the bird is kosher. And so, says Rabbi Yochanan, it should be inspected. Lai. Chizkiya amar, ein reo loif. Rabbi Yochanan amar, yesh lo v'yesh no ke'ela, shel vered ben agapayim, mai ein reo loif. Ilem delesle klal Hokochazinan islehei eladlo mitrefpe Yatani levi Trefois shimanu chachomim behema Kenegden voiv yeser lehen Oif nishbar ha'etzem af al pi Shlo nikav kum shel moach. Chizkiya son Rechia says a bird has no lungs. And Rabbi Yochanan says a bird does have lungs, and they are like a rose petal in appearance, thin and red, between the wings. The Gemara asks, what does Chizkiya mean when he says that a bird has no lungs? If we say that it has no lungs at all, that is problematic, as don't we see that it does have lungs? Rather say that he means that the bird is not rendered a treifa by them if they are perforated. But this too is problematic, as doesn't Levi teach? Those treifot that the sages enumerated in an animal hold likewise in a bird. And in addition to those, a bird is a treifa if this bone of the skull is broken, even if the memory of the brain was not perforated. If so, a perforated lung in a bird, as in an animal, renders it a treifa. Ela, ein lo ninafe, v'lo lechamao. My time, Rav Chana, hoil, derov talo iseho, migino isalehu. Rather say that Chizkiah means that a bird's lung has no halacha of falling and no halacha of singeing. If a bird falls, one need not inspect the lungs for damage as he must other organs, C51b. And if it falls in a fire, one need not inspect the lungs or a change in color as he must other organs, C56b. What is the reason for this? Rav Chana says, since the majority of the bird's ribs protect the lungs, one need not be concerned as the lung was damaged. יש לו ויש נקלה של ורד בין הגפיים. מכלל דחזקיה סבא דלסלי, אלא אמרי בו בשמי דרב יוסי ורבי חנינו. מדבר של בריבי נקרא שאין בקי בתני גוילין. The Gemara asks, but from the fact that Rabbi Yochanan says in response, a bird does have lungs, and they are like a rose petal between the wings, by inference one must include that Chizkiah maintains that it has no lungs at all. Rather, one must say that they said in the West, Eretz Yisrael, in the name of Rabbi Yossi, the son of Rabbi Chanina, from the statement of the distinguished, meaning Chizkiah, it is apparent that he is unfamiliar with chickens. No shvutas yerech. Boif kosher omele Rav Barav Huno Rav Huno. V'harabanan de'ato mipum beditam. Amar Rav Yehuda mishmed Rav Amar. Shvutas yer boif trepo omele beri nehara v'upshate. Rav Huna said that Rav said, "It is located if femur in a bird is kosher." Rav Huna said to Rav Huna. But the rabbi that came from Bombadita said that Rabbi Yehuda says in the name of Rav, a dislocated femur in a bird renders it a treifa. Rav Huna said to him, my son, each river and its course, meaning different communities, observe different customs. Although Rav himself held that such a bird is kosher, he ruled for those living in Bombadita that such a bird is a treifa in accordance with their own custom. Kobenek with Somes Hagidin Amarle Lamale Lemar Kulehai Haravun Amarav Shmutas Yerech Boiv Shero Amarle Anamas Nisin Yedaino Ehema Shinechtechu Ragleha Minha Arkuba Ulematek Shera Minha Arkuba Lemata Pesula Hein Shinita Somes Hagidin. The Gemara recounts Rabbi Abba went and found Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba inspecting birds at the convergence of sinews in the thigh. Rabbi Abba said to him, why must master do all this? But does Rav Huna say that Rav says a dislocated femur in a bird is kosher? If a bird is kosher even when the whole thigh has been removed, all the more so it should be kosher when only the convergence of sinews has been removed. Rav Yirmiyah bar Abba said to him, I know the Mishnah on 76a. It wasn't then yet on 76a, but just saying. Now it's on 76a. It says, I know the Mishnah, which with regard to an animal whose hind legs were severed. If they were severed from the joint and below, it is kosher. From the leg joint and above, it is a treifa and unfit for consumption, and likewise an animal whose conversion of sinews in the thigh was removed as a treifa. And Rav said about this, and likewise with regard to a bird, Yachi kashya derav adarav ishtik Omer le din mashanile ben shmuta lagadura Amalei v'yav mifashes shmaiti derav v'feiru shamarav shmuta kesher ha'katuv ha'psula yal titma sherechotcha mikan v'meisa chosla mikan v'chaisa. Rabbi Abba responded, if so, this statement of Rav that a bird whose conversions of sinews was removed is a treifa poses a difficulty. For that statement of Rav that a bird was with a dislocated femur is kosher, Rabbi Yomi Shiur was silent and did not respond. Rabbi Abba said to him, perhaps there's a difference for Rav between a dislocated femur and a severed femur, and while the former does not render a bird a treifa, the latter does. Rav Yomi Shiur said to him, and are you interpreting Rav's halachot based on your own reasoning? Rav said explicitly a dislocated femur is kosher, while a severed femur renders the animal unfit for consumption. And do not be confounded by this distinction. As one cuts an animal from here, in one place, and it dies, but one cuts it from there, in another place, and it lives. Ki yisal Rabbi Abba eshkechel b'zera deyasif kama. Amaravun amarav shmudas yerbo iftreifo. Amalei. The Gemara recounts when Rabbi Abba went up from Babylonia to Eretz Yisrael, he found Rabbi Zera sitting and saying, Rav Huna said that Rav said that a dislocated femur in a bird renders it a treifa. Rabbi Abba said to him, by Master's life, since the day that Master came up to here, Eretz Yisrael. Let's continue because we're in the middle of the story. 57b. Havelan pitchon pe kamel Rav Huna u'she'elna ve'amalan shmudas tirach be'ov kshero. Rabbi Abba said to him, by Master's life, since the day the Master came up here to Eretz Yisrael, now we're on 57b, top of the page, we had the opportunity to speak with Rav Huna, and we asked him about this matter, and he said to us, a dislocated femur in a bird is kosher. Okay? I think we'll stop here.